Thank you, Senator Vance. Senator Klobuchar, you're right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of questions here. I'll go fast. First of all, we know that after the Trace Act passed in 2019, after new FCC rules were in place, the number of scam robocalls declined by almost half. Now we're having all kinds of new issues. And Mr. Burku, you noted in your testimony that there is collaboration between industry and the FCC. How can we make sure that tracing illegal calls to their origin results in actual enforcement action?
So I think what we've seen, the FCC's approach with the cease and desist, I think it's been highly effective. They've targeted certain campaigns. They dropped off the face of the earth almost. So I think we're making great progress. I think the more we do, some of the rules the FCC did about know your provider, I think it's a process, and over time that is going to keep going the right direction. So I think we've done a lot of great work there.
Okay, good. Ms. Saunders, why do you think, particularly these telemarketing calls, that these volumes are so high? I was just looking, we've got so many people, 221 million numbers registered on the do not call list, and still we're seeing a number of people call about violations. What solution should we prioritize here?
So first, let me say that I believe that the number of scam calls that have appeared to be reduced because there's been a reorganization or a recategorization of many of those calls. Many of the calls that had previously been identified as scams have now been identified as telemarketing calls. And as Mr. Burku said, most of the telemarketing calls originate in the United States. We think that what needs to be done is the FCC should adopt a quick acting temporary restraining order type of methodology. And once a voice service provider is found to have repeatedly, after notice, processed scam or telemarketing calls, they should be suspended immediately from the robocall mitigation database. That'll cost them money. And even if after they have—
So that'll be an incentive to be more careful.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, like it. AI voice cloning, Senator Vance mentioned this. I had someone I know that got one of these calls, his son, serving in the Marines, deployed. So they knew he was deployed, didn't know where. They get a call because they'd scraped his voice off the internet, asking for money to be delivered to somewhere in Texas. I've had 2 other military families tell me this story in Minnesota. This is unbelievable to me. So what are service providers, Mr. Burku, what are they doing to get ahead of these robocalls made using voice calling? These are obviously targeted ones with the person's voice, but all kinds of things could happen. And what can we do, Mr. Rudolph, to mitigate this?
Thank you. The voice service providers take protecting their customers very seriously. They are always looking at the greatest technology. They've implemented blocking and labeling. They have analytics running on their networks. So I think they will continue to try to find out how they can identify those scams and how they can take action accordingly. One of the things with our traceback effort, whether it's a robocall or one of those calls, we can trace those back. We can find out who's making them. We can find out who put it on the network. So I think traceback will be a really important part of stopping those going forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
Your specific use case is a targeted attack, and based on the investigations that we've done so far and did similar attacks, those are threat actors who have gotten a personal phone and a personal phone number just like anybody going into a store to get a device. So those are extremely hard for a communication provider to deal with. It looks just like a customer making those phone calls.
Yeah, I'm just using it as an example, then it could get worse, right?
Absolutely.
Into the voice of general in that they know, a famous commander or something, anything, and it would go to all the military families, or it would go to people thinking it's a political person, turns into a robocall. So I do think this adds to the danger. Last thing, robo-texts. There were over 12 billion spam texts to Americans just last month. I think I got half of them. And these texts often include links that install malware and spyware on a consumer's device. In March, the FCC adopted rules. Ms. Saunders, what other measures should they consider to go at these illegal robo-tax?
We have recommended to the commission that it adopt special security rules for robotexts that include URLs, just because of this significant damage. Congress could also pass regulations that, or statutes that provided more protection for consumers once they've had their money stolen from their bank accounts. That would be a big help as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.